Well, here we are with our sport dory, and it's planked up, all the way up. The shear planks are on the boat right now. That's the way the boat's going to look, other than putting gunnels on it, rails on it. So we finally accomplished that, and we're pretty happy about it. We want to say to you that the boat's going to be at the Wooden Boat Show in Mystic, Connecticut this coming weekend, the 22nd, the 23rd, and the 24th. We're going to be doing some videos actually down there, maybe of doing some riveting in between the screw fastenings right here. So that's going to be kind of interesting. It's going to be fun to talk to the people that are interested in the boat, and maybe they can teach me some things, and maybe I'll teach them some things. I don't know. You know, this boat's just a little bit different. It'll show up a little bit different. It's got the Kevlar bottom, you know, and the plastic frames, and it was built in a little bit different way. I designed it myself, and you know, it's been quite a journey so far. So we've got to finish the boat up. You know, there's seats and a number of different things to put in it before we can actually launch the boat and use it. But the next thing for us to do is to pry it off of the jig. Now that's something that we've been waiting quite a while to do, because, you know, whether or not it's just going to pop off with the greatest of ease, you know, we're not really positive if it's going to pop off that easy, but it is going to pop off there one way or the other. So we're going to get after that, and we're going to show you a little bit about how we go about it. We do have some little plastic wedges here that we made up that we're going to drive between the frames and the false bottom, and that's going to apply a pressure to it and try to pry the false bottom away from the bottom of the boat. And that's basically all we're going to do it. So we're going to get after that. I'm going to actually crawl under the boat to take care of that, and we're going to get started. I'm underneath up forward here, and I wanted to just show you a few things. I've got a hydraulic jack between the jig and the stem of the boat right here. Now I put it in here like this because the jack won't work upside down. So I'm in here, the boat's still upside down, and I'm going to take a little bit of a strain on that jack. And what it's going to do is start prying the jig away from the boat. It's very simple like that. Now, I don't have much of a pressure on there, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these wedges and I'm going to put them between the frames and the plywood like that, and just wedge the plywood down. But before I even do that, I'm going to flip the boat over, and we're going to pry the jig out from inside the boat while the boat is right side up. So that's our next move, is to roll the whole thing right side up. Now this isn't so hard to do really at all, because the boat isn't all that heavy. Even with the jig involved, it's not very heavy. It maybe weighs 175 pounds with the jig, so it's pretty easy to do. We've got 3 guys here. You know, we're just going to kind of coax it over. You know, we don't know exactly where we're going to stand or exactly how we're going to go about it, but we'll kind of get the feel of it as we go. As we get tipping it, we just get the feel of it. And we don't have any assistance. We don't have any overhead gear or straps or anything like that, but we do want to be careful, because we don't want to get it involved with the ground or the floor and drag it on the floor and, you know, damage any of the laps or anything like that. So we just want to be careful, take our time, and get it over there nice and neat. One reason why I've decided to flip the boat right side up with the mold and the false bottom still in it is because every time I tried to drive a plastic wedge in between the false bottom and the frames, one of the other plastic wedges would just fall right out. They're very slippery, there's nothing holding them in there, and gravity is just trying to pull them right out. So I'd drive one in, the other one would fall out. I knew it was going to be a problem. And that happened very, very early. So I quickly decided that I would just flip the boat right side up, and then gravity would be my friend, and it would hold the wedges in place. And I could pound the wedge in, I could pound the other wedge in, and that one wouldn't move. I could stack wedges up, I could grab onto it, and I'd get enough in there so that I could get my fingers or a pry bar or something in between that false bottom and my dory, and be able to pull the false bottom right up out of it. So there it is. We've flipped it over for the first time right here, and we've still got the jig inside of it. We're pretty happy about it to see what it looks like right side up, but it looks a mess with the jig in it, doesn't it? I think that the first thing we've got to do is disassemble some of this jig and get it out of there so that we can get a really good look at it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start disassembling a lot of this jig. I'll take these strong backs off the molds themselves and maybe lift the molds out with the false bottom or without it, but one way or the other we're going to get it out of there. So let's get going. I'm removing all the longitudinals from the jig first so that I'll have all the stations individual. Now, I'm able to just unscrew most of it, but at the very ends I've got some screws that I can't get at with the screwdriver, so I'm going to cut the ends of those longitudinals off with a skill saw. I'll be able to carry those away. And then each individual mold is just in there by itself, and I'm able to just lift each individual mold right out of the boat. Now the false bottom has got just a tiniest little tiny bit of space right there that you can get these wedges into, because the wedges are cut right to a feathered tip, so we're talking almost nothing. There's very, very little space, but that wedge just fits in there, and the gravity thing's working for us too, because as I tap wedges alongside the other wedge, they're not falling out. So it works great, and I can stack them up, and basically the whole thing is just coming loose as we move around tacking the wedges in place. Now you can see how tightly that false bottom is hugging those frames. It's really, really snugged up. All there really is room for in there is a piece of packaging tape. So, the same thing with the frame stuck in the very bottom itself. There is no space. That space is flooded with glue, and it's nice and tight in there. It won't allow any water to get down in there or anything else, or any sand or anything like that. The frames are locked in place real nice. It's been, quite a little system with that whole false bottom. It's something maybe a little foreign to people, and it's even a little foreign to me. It's kind of something that I came up with at the last moment and decided that it was well worthwhile doing, and I've done it, and I think it's worth doing again. Well, there's the first time we've got it flipped upside right there. And it's quite a sight. We've got the bottom, the false bottom pried up out of it, all the molds out of it. The boat didn't cave in at all, and it looks fantastic to me. It's exactly what I envisioned on the drawing board when I was drawing the boat, and I'm really happy. I can't wait to put the seat risers and the seats in it and get it floating. I'm going to put gunnels on it yet and a few things to go yet. The next thing I really want to do, though, is introduce Caleb Gross. Caleb Gross is my new helper, and he's been really a big help to me the last number of days here. We've got a lot done since he's come on board, so we hope to have him stay around and stay with us. The next thing we have to do, Caleb and I have got to get it up on a couple of horses up a little bit higher, and then figure out how we can get it to lean this way and lean this way, because we want it in a nice convenient position where we can drill holes through it. We're going to put 2 holes between each frame on the planking lines to rivet it. We've already put a few rivets in it just to see how they'd work out, and tested it, and it works out really great. Here's a couple of rivets right here, 4 rivets that I've put in between these 2 frames already. We crawled under the boat to peen these over. We just were impatient and wanted to just see how well they worked out, and they work out really, really nicely. So we're going to be doing some more riveting as we go along. When it was upside down, it would have been impossible for us to rivet it. Really, really difficult. So we've waited till we've got it right side up, and like I said, that's why I screw fastened the boat to the plastic frames, was so that I wouldn't have to keep crawling underneath it, because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't physically get under the boat and get that kind of work done. So I've done it this way. I've screw fastened it to the plastic frames. One of the things that I really like about the plastic frames is that you can get them to bear right up very close to the laps right here. Like a wooden frame, you'd have a hard time, because the wooden frame is going to want to go straight, and the plastic frames kind of kink a little bit without too much trouble. The more pressure you put on them and squeeze them down when you fasten them, the closer you get them, but they're very nicely, tightly up against the plank, and that's the way I like it. Another thing I really like is the way the frames go right down into the bottom like that. That stops the bottom of the frame from wagging around like this. It's really locked in there nice and tight. They're notched right down into the bottom. I did that with a router. I routed through the false bottom and up into that bottom, and it worked out really, really nice. They're nice and tight, and I wouldn't have been able to chisel that or make that pocket in any other way. No way I can think of that I could have done it, so it worked out pretty nice. The bottom ends of the frames are nice and stable. They won't move fore and aft or up or lift or do anything like that. It's kind of comprehensive, and I like it a lot. Well, check it out. I'm sitting inside the boat here right now. I've just got a block of wood and a little foam pad to sit on, and I think this is actually just about the right height. I don't want the seat to be very high in the boat, because the lower it is, the more stable it is. and it's just going to be kind of for rough water rowing anyhow, so we want it to be nice and stable. I think the seat will be just about amidships, which is right here. The after part of the seat maybe fall on amidships, and then the rowlocks, which hold the oarlocks, will be a foot aft of the after part of the seat. So I've still got to get rowlocks on it, guards, seat risers in it, which would be a longitudinal piece of material that goes along and fastens to the frame, and the seats would fasten down to those. So I've got to put longitudinals in it, get the seats in it, but I can't wait to row it. This is really going to be fun to row, you know, and I can tell that I'm going to enjoy this in nice rough water. This is really going to be fun to row, really a lot. So hang on, because we're going to get her in the water. We're bound and determined here, so stay with us.